Hello guys, welcome to my channel. So today we will be discussing about what is a constructor, when it is called, with proper examples. So please do watch my vlog and also do like, share and subscribe, and also don't forget to press the bell icon. And if you have any doubts regarding the constructor, please do write your comments in the comment box, and also do let me know that whether you are able to understand whatever I am teaching in these small topics, or if you have any kind of doubts or confusions, do write it down in the comment section. I will reply you back. So let's start the vlog. In Java, a constructor is a block of code similar to the method. It is called when an instance of the class is created. At the time of calling constructor, memory for the object is allocated in the memory, which means that as we declare and define a method, in the same way we do for the constructor also. And also, when an object of a class is being created, at that time a default constructor is being called. But that doesn't mean that only the default constructor can be called. You can also write and also call a constructor. So that is also possible. Moreover, when a constructor is being called, in order to perform the specific job, a memory is being allocated, post which the memory is deallocated also. So it is basically a special type of method which is used to initialize the object. Now what initialization of the object means, we will come in the upcoming slides. Now whenever you create an object of a class by using the new keyword, the default constructor is being called. Okay, so if you have not written any constructor and called any constructor explicitly, so each and every time the Java compiler provides a default constructor. So basically there are two types of constructors in Java. One is parameterized constructor and one is no arg constructor. No arg constructor stands for no argument constructor without any parameters. Please take a note of this, that it is not necessary to write a constructor for a class. It is because the Java compiler provides a default constructor if we have not written any constructor explicitly, or if we have not written any user-defined constructor. Now, what are the rules for creating Java constructor? The very first rule is that your class name and a constructor name must be same. Number two, a constructor must have no explicit return type, which means whenever you will be defining a constructor, okay, declaring or defining a constructor that is a user-defined constructor, it should not have any kind of return type. That keep in mind in an user-defined constructor. That is why it is written as no explicit return type. It should not have any explicit return type. And the Java constructor cannot be abstract, static, final, and synchronized. Now, as I said you, there are two types of constructor. One is the default constructor, which is also known as the no arg constructor, which is the no argument constructor, and the parameterized constructor. So let's dive deep into each of the constructor details with example. Now, a constructor is called default constructor when it doesn't have any parameter, which means if you are not defining any kind of constructor, so that is very common that you will not be having any kind of parameter in the constructor. So the syntax of the default constructor is the class name, as the rule suggests that the class name and the constructor name should be same, and you can check that there is a first bracket open and the first bracket close, where you are not defining any kind of parameter inside that first bracket, and second bracket open, second bracket close. So this format or this format of the constructor is called as a default constructor, which Java compiler calls implicitly if you are not defining a user-defined constructor. Now let's look at this program. The first one, Java program. Here what we are doing in this Java program, we are creating and calling a default constructor. So the name of the class is bike1. Okay, so in the next line, bike1 without any parameter. Okay, so now you are writing system.out.println bike is created. That's it, nothing. That is, it will print in the runtime in the print console that bike is created. This string will be printed. Okay, but you check very carefully. As per the rule of the constructor creation, the class name and the constructor name is same, bike1, bike1. Now there is the main method which Java compiler recognizes. So here, as soon as you use the new keyword, that is you are creating object B for class bike1. So as soon as you use the new keyword, this bike1 constructor is called by the default, which has no parameters. So the constructor is being called and the bike is created because in the constructor we have written that this function will be performed, this specific job will be performed, that in the runtime console bike is created string will be printed. So the output is bike is created. Now many of you might wonder that why should we, means what is the purpose of a default constructor? The default constructor is used to provide the default values to the object. Object means the object you are creating, the object of the class that you are creating by using the new keyword. So that at that particular point where you are using the new keyword, that is you are creating an instance of the class or the object of the class, then only the constructor is being called. Now see, the default constructor provides only the default value. So what basically are the default values? 0 and null. This is the default value. This is dependent on the data type. If the data type is integer, it returns 0. If the data type is string, it gives the default value as null. So now we will check another example of default constructor that displays the default value. See, here we are not returning any value. As I said, the constructor should not have explicit return type. Here we are not returning any value for the constructor, and this is basically a default constructor, so it will not return any value. Absolutely. So in the next slide I will show you the user defined constructor where it will also not return any value. Okay, now here we have a class student3. We have two variables, id, name. Id is of int data type, name is of string data type. We have another method, that is display, whose return type is void, which means it will also not return any value. But the display method will display this id and name variable value. So the plus sign indicates a concatenation operator, which means id variable value concatenated with this blank space concatenated with the name variable value. Now we have a method that is main. Java compiler recognizes main. We have created two objects for the student3 class, that is s1, s2, same name as the class name. So here the constructor is being called. So what is the constructor name? Student3, because constructor name should always be same as the class name. So there are two objects, s1, s2. Now we are calling the display method from s1, display method from s2. Now while we are calling the display method from s1 and s2, the id is of data type int, so it will display the default value. It is not returning any value, it is displaying the default value, that is 0, and name will display a value that is null. Why? Because name is a string data type and id is an int data type. It is displaying a default value of 0 and null. So here is the explanation of the above code. Whatever I've explained, that in the above class we are not creating any user defined constructor. We are only creating an object of the class where a default constructor is being called by the Java compiler. So the default constructor name is the same as the class name. Whereas in user defined constructor also, the constructor name that you are defining and declaring, that will also be the same as the class name, because that is the rule, that is the thumb rule. And here the default values are 0 and null depending on the data type. id has a data type of int, so not returned actually, it provided the value of 0, and string has a name has a data type of string, so it provided the value of, that is, null. Now here comes the user defined constructor. First we'll understand what it is. Java parameterized constructor. A constructor which has a specific number of parameters is called a parameterized constructor. Parameter, as you all know what a parameter is, like in a method we pass values through the parameters and arguments, right? Okay, so that parameterized constructor is known as user defined constructor. Why use the parameterized constructor? The parameterized constructor is used to provide different values to distinct objects. However, you can provide the same values also. Now see, in a default constructor, the default values are being provided by the constructor, right? But in a parameterized constructor, you can provide values as per your choice. So that is a biggest advantage of a parameterized or a user defined constructor. Okay, so let's understand about what or how we can define and declare a parameterized constructor or a user defined constructor. There is a class named student4, right? There are two variables, id and name, with data type as int and string. Now we are creating a parameterized constructor. See, the constructor name is also student4, the same name as the class. So there are two parameters, int I, string n. Now I variable, that is the parameter I variable, which has a data type of int, we are initializing the value to id variable, and n we are initializing the value of n to name variable. Now there is a method display where we are displaying the system.out.println id plus name, same as the previous example. Now there is a main method. Here we are creating two objects, s1, s2, right, of the same class. So here what happens, once we create this object with the new keyword, the student4 constructor, parameterized constructor, is being called. How do you understand? See, here you are creating new. This is the constructor student4, and you are passing two arguments, 111, which goes to I variable, current goes to n variable. And I variable value 111 is being initialized to id variable, n variable value current is being initialized to name variable. Same way, the second object also applies. So here you are displaying you are calling the display method with these two objects, S1 and S2 of the student4 class. So now let's check what is the output of this example. So here is the output. In the first object, we are passing these two variable arguments, 111 and current. So that is being displayed because we have written there that system.out.println. Okay, we are displaying the values of id and that is the name variable. And in the second output, 222 and RN. So it is pretty clear that how easy it is to create and to call a parameterized constructor. So thank you all for attending this session, and I hope that this session will clear your doubt about constructor and will help you in better understanding and give you a better clarity. So please, if you like this video, please do subscribe, share and comment that whether you have understood or you have any kind of doubts. I will be happy to clear all your doubts. So please do share your doubts in the comment section. Take care. Bye-bye. Good night.